"Just take your turn, Skye," said Rosalind. "There's no point in playing if we don't do it right." Rosalind, who was sitting in the front seat with Mr. Penderwick, turned around and gave Skye her oldest sister glare. It wouldn't do much, Rosalind knew. After all, Skye was only 1 year younger than she was, but it might quiet her long enough for Rosalind to concentrate on where they were going. They really were badly lost. This trip should have taken an hour and a half, and already they'd been on the road for 3. Rosalind looked over at her father in the driver's seat. His glasses were slipping down his nose, and he was humming his favorite Beethoven symphony, the one about spring. Rosalind knew this meant he was thinking about plants — he was a professor of botany — instead of about his driving. "Daddy," she said, "what do you remember about the map?"
"We're supposed to go past a little town called Framley, then make a few turns and look for number 11 Stafford Street."
"Didn't we see Framley a while ago? And look," she said, pointing out the window, "we've been past those cows before."
"Good eyes, Rosie," he said. "But weren't we going in the other direction last time? Maybe this way will do the trick."
"No, because all we saw along here were more cow fields, remember?"
"Oh, yes."
Mr. Penderwick stopped the car, turned it around, and went back the other way. "We need to find someone who can give us directions," said Rosalind. "We need to find a helicopter that can airlift us out of here," said Skye, "and keep your stupid wings to yourself." She was talking to Batty, who, as always, was wearing her beloved orange and black butterfly wings. "They're not stupid," said Batty.
"Woof,"
said Hound from his place among the boxes and suitcases in the very back of the car. He took Batty's side in every discussion. "Lost and weary, the brave explorers and their faithful beast argued among themselves. Only Sabrina Starr remained calm," said Jane. Sabrina Starr was the heroine of books that Jane wrote. She rescued things. In the first book, it was a cricket. Then came Sabrina Starr Rescues a Baby Sparrow, Sabrina Starr Rescues a Turtle, and most recently, Sabrina Starr Rescues a Groundhog. Rosalind knew that Jane was looking for ideas on what Sabrina should rescue next. Skye had suggested a man-eating crocodile who would devour the heroine and put an end to the series, but the rest of the family had shouted her down. They enjoyed Jane's books. There was a loud oomph in the back seat. Rosalind glanced around to make sure violence hadn't broken out, but it was only Batty struggling with her car seat. She was trying to twist herself backward to see Hound. Jane was jotting in her favorite blue notebook, so they were both all right. But Skye was blowing out her cheeks and imitating a fish, which meant she was even more bored than Rosalind had feared. They'd better find this cottage soon. Then Rosalind spotted the truck pulled over by the side of the road. "Stop, Daddy. Maybe we can get directions." Mr. Penderwick pulled over and Rosalind got out of the car. She now saw that the truck had tomatoes painted in large letters on each of its doors. Next to the truck was a wooden table piled high with fat red tomatoes, and behind the table, an old man wearing worn blue jeans and a green shirt with Harry's Tomatoes embroidered across the pocket.
"Tomatoes?" he asked.
"Ask if they're magic tomatoes," Rosalind heard. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Skye hauling Jane back in through the car window. "My younger sisters," said Rosalind apologetically to the old man.
"Had 6 of 'em myself."
Rosalind tried to imagine having 6 younger sisters, but she kept coming up with each of her sisters turned into twins. She shuddered and said, "Your tomatoes look delicious, but what I really need is directions. We're looking for number 11 Stafford Street."
"Arundel?"
"I don't know about any Arundel. We're supposed to be renting a cottage at that address."
"That's Arundel. Mrs. Tifton's place. Beautiful woman. Snooty as all get out, too."
"Oh, dear."
"You'll be fine. There are a couple of nice surprises over there. You're going to have to keep that blonde one under control, though," he said, nodding toward the car where Skye and Jane were now leaning out of the window together, listening. Muffled complaints could be heard from Batty, who was being squashed. "Why me?" called Skye. The man winked at Rosalind. "I can always spot the troublemakers. I was one myself. Now tell your dad to go down this road a little ways, take the first left, then a quick right, and look for number 11.
"Thank you," said Rosalind, and turned to go.
"Hold on a minute."
He plopped a half-dozen tomatoes into a paper bag.
"Take these."
"Oh, I can't," said Rosalind.
"Sure you can. Tell your dad they're a present from Harry."
He handed Rosalind the bag.
"And one last thing, young lady. You and your sisters better stay clear of Mrs. Tifton's gardens. She's touchy about those gardens. Enjoy the tomatoes."
Rosalind got back into the car with her bag of tomatoes. "Did you hear him?"
"Straight, then left, then right, then look for number 11, said Mr. Penderwick, starting up the car.
"What's this Arundel he was talking about?" said Skye. "And who's Mrs. Tifton?" said Jane. "Hound needs to go to the bathroom," said Batty. "Soon, honey," said Rosalind. "Daddy, here, go left." A few moments later, they were turning onto Stafford Street, and then suddenly Mr. Penderwicks stopped the car in the middle of the road, and everyone stared in amazement. What had the family expected from a rental cottage? A cozy little tumble-down house with a few pots of geraniums in the front yard. Even Harry the Tomato Man's news hadn't changed that. If anyone had thought about it at all, they had figured snooty Mrs. Tifton lived in a cottage next to theirs and grew vegetables in carefully guarded garden plots. That's not what they saw. What they saw were two tall, elegant stone pillars with number 11 carved across one and Arundel across the other. Beyond the pillars was a lane winding off into the distance with double rows of tall poplars on either side. And past the poplars was a beautifully tended lawn dotted with graceful trees. There was no house in sight. "Holy bananas," said Skye. "Cottages don't have front yards like this," said Rosalind. "Daddy, are you sure you remembered the right address?"
"Pretty sure," said Mr. Penderwick.
He turned the car and started slowly down the lane, which wandered on and on until the Penderwicks thought they would never reach the end. But finally, there was one last curve, the poplar trees ended, and Rosalind's fears were realized. "Daddy, that's not a cottage."
"No, I agree. That's a mansion."
And so it was, a huge mansion crouching in the middle of formal gardens. Built from gray stone, it was covered with towers, balconies, terraces, and turrets that jutted every which way. And the gardens! There were fountains and flowering hedges and marble statues, and that was just in the part the Penderwicks could see from the lane. "The exhausted travelers saw before them a dwelling fit for kings. Cair Paravel, El Dorado, Camelot," said Jane. "Too bad we're not kings," said Skye. We're still lost, said Rosalind, discouraged.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.